Doomsday 3.
We're in Doomsday 1. He came from one of the toughest areas of Phoenix, both in this country and of course praying for safety and got people on the defense talking about it. You better get your ass the ball. You better get the ball. I just gotta say, when it comes to Dallas, different. For sure, and they would have thrown it off because this guy gets off you.
And I go to bed every night like, G man, I promise you that Man, what is up, Cowboys Nation? Your boy Mike Tag here with Kelly K9. We're gonna get you through, the last part of the season. And this, I don't know about you, Kelly, but this is my favorite time for football because you got college winding down, you got all the championship games this weekend, then you get it now, you got the playoffs coming up, you got a lot of meaningful football, maybe not for the Cowboys, but I still think they might have something. We're going to get into that, some meaningful football, and now you're going to get into the playoffs in the NFL soon, and it's just, to me, this is like that stretch run that is the best time for if you're a football fan. What you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I do like the college football playoffs. It's also, for me, this point in the season right now, at least with this season in particular, it's a bittersweet moment just because, I wanted to be celebrating my college team in a bowl game and my NFL team, possibly chasing the number 2 or number 1 seed, at least an NFC East title. And none of that is, an NFC East title is out of the question here. Yeah. That's going to go to the Eagles more than likely. I'd say that's the best scenario. I doubt the Commanders are going to catch them. They're only 2 games behind, but I think the Eagles got a pretty easy schedule the rest of the way. So figure they're going to lock that up. So, having the Cowboys sit here at only 5 wins, at this part of the season is pretty bittersweet for me. But I do agree there's a lot of great football. As a football fan, a lot of great football, a lot of great games in college football. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how all of that shakes out. And then, Selection Sunday, you got the bowl selections, get to find out where each team will be playing. And there's been a couple, I always watch that and I'm kind of like, as far as I don't know if you have a preference. I don't know if I'm sure they've thrown out a few scenarios for Miami. Yeah. I don't know if you particularly have a preference. I know for me, my personal selfish preference is to play Nebraska because we've been floated out about possibly playing Nebraska. And I'd love to have Texas Tech kick the shit out of Nebraska just so I can kind of give it to them. I root for them, but
I like them. I look for the matchups, but college, unfortunately, if your team's not in the playoffs, your stars typically don't play. Like Restrepo's probably not going to play for Miami. Cam's not going to play in Miami. You're probably not going to get George to play. You're probably not going to get Bain. You're not going to get a lot of your guys that are your top tier guys play because that whole fear of getting hurt if you're going to enter into the draft and things like that. So that's the kind of thing that sucks about the bowl games now. They've kind of lost a lot of that luster and a lot of that, excitement because you just don't know. Who's going to play on your team. It's almost like you're looking at what your future is like, right? Yeah. Who's going to be the quarterback for Miami to replace Cam Ward? You guys got a big time running back. Is he a senior or is he?
It's a senior. This is
he probably wouldn't play, right? He probably wouldn't.
I don't know, man. He really loves. He loves football, and he's a guy that. I know he's going to go into the NFL. I know he'll be drafted. I think he'll play. I just think he loves the game too much to sit out. To sit out. I think he'll play. Because I think, and in his mind, certain players look at it different ways because not everybody does that. But it's become a trend now. So if he didn't play, I wouldn't hold it against him. But I just have a feeling that he's gonna want to play. I feel like he just loves the University of Texas Tech that much that he wants to go out his final, and be and play in a bowl game and win a bowl game. I think it means something to him. But yeah, I mean, he's Taj Brooks. I've been pounding. I'm gonna pound the table all up. I don't care if the Cowboys draft a running back in first round, second round, whatever. But I want them to take Taj Brooks. I feel like he's a third, fourth round guy that they'll probably draft. I think he should be higher, in my opinion. I think he's gonna slide down the board. But I mean, back-to-back 1,500-yard seasons. He's the only other running back in college football besides Janty that has went for over 100 yards in every single game. He's underrated as hell, man. Not too many people really talk about him. I don't know why, because every time I watch him, he is just putting on a show. And he's a guy that rarely gets negative yards. He's always positive yards, and he can break away. He's got power. He's a complete back. He can block. He can pass catch. He can do it all, man. I love watching him. So hopefully I get to see him play. But Cam Ward, I'm assuming won't play in you guys' bowl game.
I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's going to be probably like a top 5 pick.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to play. Restrepo, he's going to play in the Senior Bowl, but I doubt he's going to play in the bowl game. I mean, I think that's what ends up happening, right? And I don't know how you feel. You saw the play. We'll talk a little college because I mean, really, how much Cowboys are going to be able to talk? We're gonna work it in, but looking at the college, the playoff selection committee and what they did. Look, I'm a Miami fan. I can argue Miami, but I'm not going to sit here and cry and moan that they didn't make it to the playoffs. I mean, you put yourself in the position when you lose. But looking at, and I can't believe I'm going to agree with a Danny Cannell, Florida State, but he said of the 4 teams that are in the debate for the one spot, what's wild is Bama is probably the weakest of them all, and yet they get the nod. And this is what he kind of said. Miami had the best record, right, of the 4 teams. South Carolina was the hottest team. So now that's a team that if they put them in over Miami, I wouldn't really have an argument because they are playing good football now. Ole Miss has the biggest win, right? They have the best win of the 3 losses of the ones. And Bama, they have the brand. I mean, people love Bama's brand, right? I mean, Bama. And the thing with Miami, what always is going to hurt Miami's some people know, some people don't. It's a private school. It's 8,000 students. They don't have a huge traveling fan base that's going to go all over the place. So that usually hurts them when it comes down to these kind of things. But I don't know. Do you think there's a Bama bias, an SEC bias when it comes to ESPN and it comes to the playoffs? You're going to get 4 that go in. The interesting thing would be is if SMU loses to Clemson, they said SMU would get in over Bama, which I don't understand because SMU's resume isn't very good. So the whole committee kind of screwed up.
Well, yeah, because here's the thing. I mean, you've got teams like, Boise State play. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. They got a weak ass schedule. SMU, weak ass schedule. I mean, those are teams that I get that, if you go undefeated and all this other stuff. But look, you also have to look at the quality of opponent, man, and you got to look at who they played. And I think that's why Bama always gets.
But the interesting thing with Bama, they're very creative in how they said, well, the difference in Miami and Bama against over 500 teams, Bama was like 5-1, Miami was 4-2. Miami's only 2 losses. Understand what I just said. Yeah. Bama's 2 losses, an embarrassing blowout loss against Oklahoma, 24-6.
And Oklahoma dog shit.
Yeah, and then you lose to Vanderbilt, who's a 6-win team. You lose to them. So to me, that was a weak argument that they did on Bama. Like I said, I'll go back to South Carolina. Like South Carolina can do it. But I'd say this. The ACC against the SEC this year, the ACC had a better record. I mean, we beat the shit out of the ACC team we play. I mean, so it is or the SEC team, excuse me. It is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. I just wonder, is there a true bias when it comes to ESPN and the SEC?
I think that there is. I mean, you look at it. Bama's a 3-loss team. I thought Bama's chances of making the college football playoffs were 0 when they got beat by Oklahoma.
Yeah,
I said that's the nail in the coffin for them. They will not be in the college football playoffs. And I honestly don't think they deserve to be in the college football playoffs because if you lose to Oklahoma, I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, what did Texas do to Oklahoma when they played them? I mean,
It was
they stomped,
embarrassing.
they stomped a mud hole in them. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So there's a difference in, a team, and as much as I hate Texas, but there's a difference in the talent that Texas has and the way that they played football here to Bama. And I just don't think Bama belongs with these other programs that are going to be in there. And I do think that you have to, and I do think that you do have to look at, obviously with the strength of schedule. And the thing about it is right now with the way the college football playoffs, if you're going to want to include a team like that, because they go undefeated, if you're going to want to include teams like SMU and give them a shot that they can make it in, or like say a Boise State, I think you already just get to the point where we got the college football playoffs expanded to 16 teams. Just take it to 16 teams, because then, I mean, there's always going to be somebody. There's always going to be somebody arguing about who should.
17's going to be. That's why I'm not going to cry about it. I mean, it is what it is. Miami is not going to, if you're not going to go win a national title with the defense they had, but they lost 2 games on the road to winning teams, one a 9-3 team, another 7-5 or whatever they were. They lost by a combined 9 points. So it's not like they never got blown out. They had a larger margin of victory than Bama easily. Against winning teams on the road, Bama was 1-3, Miami was 4-2 or whatever it ended up being. But it's just I just don't know. It's just hard when they come out here and they give these excuses and they give this. To me, I've always said it. You should win your conference, should get you in automatically. They fixed that. And maybe they need to make it, you got to be in the championship game to get it, because, maybe that's the thing. Because how are you going to pick and choose certain teams? Because you can make an argument, like I said, for South Carolina. I don't follow the Big Ten that much. I mean, the Pac-12 sucks, so I don't think anyone's going to be coming from there. But you got arguments on Big Ten that there might be some teams there. But then you look at Ohio State that lost, and probably one of the most embarrassing losses that I've ever seen. And, there were 24.5-point favorites at home against the rival that I thought they put 70 on. I bet that game on one of my parlays, because I said they're going to embarrass this team for what they've done. It's payback. You'd almost wonder how the hell they're in the playoffs, because that's an embarrassing loss. But
it used to be that if you lose a game like that this late in the year, similar to Bama losing to Oklahoma, you could not recover from that. And the fact that you can now, the fact that, Ohio State is in there after a loss to a 6-win Michigan team, the fact that Bama is, they're sitting there and Bama's they're talking about is a team that lost to what? Oklahoma won 3 games this year, I think, or something like that. Oklahoma was terrible this year. I mean, it's just, it's kind of mind-boggling to me, because I feel like that it kind of takes away from the importance of that regular season, because in college football, it's always been like, okay, who has you have to win these big games, and you got to win these rivalry games, and you can't slip up and lose to an unranked opponent. Bama slipped up to an unranked opponent. Ohio State slipped up to an unranked opponent. And, they can say, well, we went the whole year, we did this and this and that. Well, yeah, but I mean, if there's another team in there that has been playing hot down the stretch, and they got some good wins, South Carolina, that's one of those things where it's very hard. I think it's just hard. It's hard overall.
That's why I say you can't cry about it. But the thing I would say that they need to understand about, like, the SEC, and I'll stand by this, I think all these conferences with the NIL and with the transfer portal, the margin of these teams is very razor thin. That's why you see some of these teams beat them, because the gap has been narrowed, because all these Bama kids that were they used to run deep. That's why they would blow teams out. They could go 3 or 4 deep in their roster. They don't do that no more, because those backups now go to other teams. Like the Syracuse quarterback, who's pretty damn good, he was Ohio State's quarterback. He transferred because he wasn't getting out of – they're going to move to another school to where they get an opportunity. These defensive – Miami was a benefactor. You get Cam Ward. You got some big offensive linemen. You get Damian Martinez. You get, a couple linebackers you end up getting from other schools because of transfer portal. So the level – the playing field has been leveled in these conferences, to where it used to be the SEC up here, and you had all these, 3 or 4 solid, unbelievable teams, and then average teams. they're all pretty much the same. I mean, and it's that way across every conference. So it's wide open. That's why this playoff, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, man. I'm excited to watch it because I don't know. You might get a Boise State that just, hey.
Maybe. I mean, maybe. You never know. What was that? Oh, God, that was probably 10 plus years ago when Boise State had that,
beat Oklahoma,
BCS Bowl and beat Oklahoma. Was that Statue of Liberty that they ran that play at the end of the game? Yeah, I mean, you never know, man. I mean, any given Saturday, right? Huh?
Yeah. Wasn't that Kellen Moore the quarterback on that team?
It might have been.
It was around that time. I don't know if it was him or another guy, but it was around that time. I know it was
a ways back. But I remember thinking that because, I mean, everybody picked Oklahoma in that game. Nobody thought Boise State stood a chance, and then Boise State beat them. So, yeah, that was pretty intense. I just real quick, though, before we kind of move on from the college football, SoCal says it was Kellen. What's your thoughts on, because this was a big story and there was a big brawl. What is your thoughts on planting your flag on the opposing team's logo? And the reason I ask this is because we've seen that teams don't look. I mean, we were getting our asses kicked by the 49ers, but George Teague still defended the damn star because there's pride about that logo. There's pride about protecting your house and not let it get disrespected. So I get both sides of the argument. I get where people are saying, you know what, if you don't want them to do that, win the game. I get that. But just because you win the game, in my opinion, don't give you the permission to disrespect my house. Like, you know what I mean? That's kind of how I feel. I don't know how you feel about it, but I don't really fault Ohio State with going out there and defending their logo. They were like, nope, we're not going to let this happen. It's not going to happen again. Go out there and start calling it blows. I mean, I get it, man. I do, but I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
I see both sides. I listen to Baker Mayfield just because he's in Tampa, so you see him on TV a lot. And they asked him about it. And I think he's the OG, right? He's the one who, in that game, he's the one who always, to me, started that. I know they probably did it before him, but that's the one I remember the most at the very beginning, where it was that turning point where he planted a flag. I don't really have much issue with it. I think it's one of those college rivalry when you have that, but I think you got to expect that you're going to get some fights and you're going to get a reaction. It would just be like with anything else. It was the same thing, like you said, with George Teague. T.O. did it once, then Emmitt Smith did it, and then T.O. did it again, and then, all right, enough's enough. You got it one time, Emmitt did it, stop, and then he went out there, and then Teague had to flatten him out. So that's just the way it works. But I think it's just makes a fun part of college football. I remember a time Miami Hurricanes, Florida State is a big rivalry. This happened one time. Remember the horse, they come out and they plant the spear before so the Miami Hurricane mascot, the Ibis, Sebastian, he got they used to use the fire extinguishers to create smoke before they came out with all the machines and all that. So the horse was getting ready to come out, and he took the fire extinguisher and shot it up the horse's ass, and the horse spooked and went crazy. And then the Indian or the Seminole that was on the horse fell off, and Miami got in a ton of trouble over it, not allowed to do the whole extinguisher thing anymore. And that was part of college football. It was fun. The fight breaks out, but I like that stuff. But, to get tear gas, to get to a point where that's pretty violent. Tear gas going. You wish maybe Ohio State would have showed a little bit that kind of fight during the game. Maybe they wouldn't have got embarrassed, but I love it. I think the rivalries and the passion of college football is like nothing else.
Yeah, I think that when you see true hatred for one another, that's what I want to. And it's funny because that's what I want to see in the NFL that you just don't see anymore. There's too much camaraderie. There's too much. Yes. Oh, well, I played with this guy in college. Nah, there's mutual respect. Because you don't hear NFL players saying we hate them guys no more. But when I'm watching the Michigan Wolverine team come out in the locker room, and the Ohio State guys are coming out and they're jawing at them before the game. I mean, and then after the game, there's I love that. I love that kind of stuff. I mean, I think that is, I think that's awesome. Hated rivalries, I think, is what makes football extra fun. To actually have hatred for another team. And when you're on that team, and you may be friends with a guy that plays there, you may know a guy that plays on there, but when you guys are lining up across from each other, it's nothing but hatred. You want to beat the hell out of them dudes, and there's no love for them. And I love that. I think there's not enough of that. and definitely in the NFL. But in college football, there still is that hated rivalry between teams that really truly don't like each other. I like it. I dig it, man.
I remember your son is wrestling, so it brought back some memories, and we'll talk a little bit about that at some point in the show. But I remember, when we wrestled, it's different. I don't know how it is in where you live, but it used to be you'd have dual meets, right? So you'd wrestle the other school. And that, when I wrestled, you'd wrestle 15 matches against the other school. Then you'd have counties, you'd have districts, you'd have a Christmas tournament, all these tournaments.
Yep.
Well, like now in Florida, there's really no dual meets. It's all tournaments. It's all get about 15 teams in there, get about 8 matches in the day. You'd end up with 100 matches when the season's over. When you wrestled, like when I wrestled, you probably, if you were state champion, you were like 34-0, right? You wrestled about 30 matches, something like that. So when we wrestled, our rival schools, you'd go out and you'd warm up, right? And then the visiting team would come warm out second, and we would basically line up right at the edge of the mat, and it was just more intimidation, right? You just kind of stand over them, and that was our way to do it. In that sport, it was always this you always tried to find an edge, and that's what I love about college football, and really even high school, they do that. But when you get to the pros, like you said, it's just everyone's moving around. It's big business. I mean, there was a time when I never forget Danny White and Dexter Manley got in a fight, and they're throwing each other in a face mask and all this stuff. That's what I miss in the NFL that you do get in youth sports in college. So anyway,
I don't have any problem with it. Like, I mean, I think like the intimidation factor, I like that. Any competitive edge that you can get, because intimidation is an edge. If you can intimidate your opponent, or if you can intimidate, I think that all of that. I just love all that stuff. I like to see fights break out.
It's fun.
I will say it's pretty stupid though when players punch other players in the helmet. Like close fist punching a dude in the helmet is the stupidest thing I can ever see. Like, if you want to headbutt somebody, you want to tackle them, if you want to give them a couple of rib or kidney punches, like, I'm all for that. But like, hit a dude right in his helmet. Like, I mean, I don't know. That's stupid. You're gonna break a knuckle, mess your hand up. There was a guy just the other day, and I don't remember if it was the NFL or if it was college, but the dude's down on the ground, guy's standing over him, punches him right in the center of his face mask, and I'm like, you didn't do anything to him. No. Why would you do that? It's hilarious to see, but I love watching fights. I don't care what sport it is. I love watching fights. In fact, I think probably one of my favorite fights that I've ever seen was I don't remember what they called, the Malice at the Palace.
Oh, Malice at the Palace, Detroit and Indiana.
The Indiana Pacers. Man, that was one of the best fights. I mean, you even got a fan that came up and stand there beating the fan up, and then another fan comes up, gets knocked out. Like, that shit was so. I watched that so many times.
Is when I think it was our test. He thought the guy who threw the cup.
Yeah,
he passed by him, and the guy like sitting back and smiling, and the guy jumps on the guy next to him.
He was beating the wrong dude up. He's going in on that dude, and the guy that threw the cup's kind of like got the wrong damn man. But yeah, no, I love watching stuff like that, man. That's some good stuff. I mean, there's been some great fights throughout our lifetime that we've been able to see, and I enjoy it. I always watch it, and I stop what I'm doing. I'm like, watch the replay. But yeah, it's good stuff.
I'll tell you one intimidation story that we could jump to the Cowboys. So I told you I wrestled. So imagine doing this today. When I tell you this, imagine doing this today. So, when you go in, the team comes in, you're in your locker room, right? They come in your locker room and you weigh in and you line up against each other and weigh, the whole thing. So we had one of our wrestlers, my buddy Oink. He ended up being a state champion. And so he's sitting there, and the team is coming off the bus, and they're going to come in our locker room. So he's in the mirror with a machete, and he has shaving cream on his head. And as the team's walking in, he's shaving his head with his machete in school with a machete on his head. If you would have seen the look on these kids' faces as they're coming in, I swear to God, they all shit their pants. We beat the living shit out of them. I don't think they wanted it. All they were trying to figure out is, what weight class is he? Because I'm not wrestling. But I mean, those are the things that you used to do. I mean, in school today, you would be expelled. That would never happen. It would never.
Right.
But it was good times, and I just love it. But let's transition to some Cowboys. Now, I want to do something before that because I saw your tweet, and I had a little lunch break. So you know those playoff predictors where you can go in, you pick each game of each week, and then it tells you kind of where you finish. So I did the playoff predictor, and I finished up the season for our team. And let me get this right here so we can get it. Let's see if I can get this right. Where can I? All right, there we go. So I finished the schedule, and I had the Cowboys finishing with the same record as Washington, 9-8. I had Dallas losing one game down the stretch, and that was to the Eagles. The Eagles would be the number 2 seed. The Lions would be the number 1 seed at 15-2. The Giants would probably get the first pick in the draft. Dallas wouldn't make the playoffs, but neither would Washington. It would end up being Tampa by a 3-way tie in the way they work it. Tampa would end up getting the wild card seed. So I know you said you don't see any hope with the Cowboys getting in the playoffs, and you really don't see much hope in them winning. But looking at their schedule, they're getting healthy, and we're going to get into some of that stuff. And looking at the opponents they play, a lot of winnable games. The only team over 500 they play is going to be the Eagles. We're going to get into the Bengals, which Bengals are a potent team, and their offense is unbelievable, but their defense is trash. So, I mean, am I drinking too much Kool-Aid, or could you see this possibly happening? Or you say, what's your thoughts when you kind of see some of the breakdown of the schedule and the results?
Well, so I could see. I'm not going to say I couldn't see it happening. I just still think it's a long shot for any of that, just because I think that the Cowboys look. I know that everybody's looking at the record of the Bengals. They're better than their record. I think the Cowboys probably are better than their record, but I do think that the Cowboys, I don't think Cooper Rush, look at over the last 4 games, Cooper Rush is basically a 20-point per game average guy. He was that in 2022. He averaged 19 points a game. This season right now, if you look over the 4-span game, he's also averaging 20 points a game. So just maybe like it was 19.5 the last time in 2022 when he took over 5 games. He's at 4 games thus far and averaging 20 points. The last 4 games the Bengals have played, they've averaged 35 points a game. And they have played they've played the Ravens, who is a legit team. Was it the Ravens that they played this last week? Who they played this last week, or was it with the Steelers?
No, I don't think
they played
the Steelers. Steelers
okay.
put it on them, I think.
They did. They won. The Steelers have won 44, put 44 on them. But they did put 38 points up on the board. I'm gonna read this real quick because before I forget about this, because I don't want to ignore any super chats here. We got Mark here where he just said it. He says we're gonna be dumb and play CD to try and win. I don't think it's dumb, Mark. I think that's as a football coach and this football team. I think they want to try to win. I don't think, we as fans, we've talked about it. We as fans talk about losing. The team doesn't want to lose. The players don't want to lose. The coaches don't want to lose. Nobody wants to lose. It sets a bad precedent. So yes, I do think they'll try to win. That said, I think Cincinnati's better than their record. I think they're a dangerous team offensively. And I think that if you look at it, everybody's chalking up Carolina as an automatic victory. Carolina's playing pretty goddamn hard.
Oh, they are. To your point, they're not packing it in. They're not packing it in.
They're not. I mean, they're out there. They're playing hard. They look like they're playing to win. So they're, in my opinion, even though we've got, to what appears to be an easy schedule, there are no give me games. And, and when it comes to this Cowboys team, I do agree that we have showed some fight down the stretch. We've played a lot harder. Defense is coming along, looking much improved, but I still look at it from this perspective. I look at it like this and look at this team and I say, we still have some fundamental flaws that I just don't think that we fix. I think that, yes, we beat the Commanders, but I think the Commanders are frauds. Obviously,
I told you they were. You told me they weren't.
I did. I said that they were going to, but listen, I will say this, though. At the beginning of the season, I did say that they were going to win. I thought that they'd win 8 or 9 games.
Yeah.
They're going to come. That's going to come to fruition. So they did do that. But I did also, a few weeks ago think that they were actually legit contenders for the NFC East, and I got proven wrong. They're definitely not. So I don't really bump my chest over that win, and I definitely don't look at this win against the New York Giants that we had on Thanksgiving as some type of indicator as, okay, we've won 2 in a row now. I look at it as, look, we beat a fraudulent Commanders team that honestly, we had some plays that went our way. We had some things that really went our way to win that, which you need that to happen in football. But we, I won't say luck, but we did have some things that kind of bounced our way in that game. And then the Giants, I mean, you had Drew Lock out there at quarterback. I mean, dude hadn't played a game all year. They still were able to manage to put up 20 points on our defense. It's not anything that gives me, I mean, we're playing a totally different opponent when you talk about this Sunday, where you got a guy like Joe Burrow coming into AT&T. You got Joe Burrow, you got Jamar Chase. I mean, the offensive weapons that those guys have, in my opinion, is superior to anything that we faced versus the Commanders or even the Giants. So
that's the problem.
It's going to be a different ball game, I think.
You got Bland, you get Diggs more than likely back. So, I mean, your secondary is going to be at about the best it could be. Micah Parsons he seems to be playing on a different level. So, I mean, the defense, the only hope now, Vegas agrees with you. Vegas, we always know, is pretty smart. Vegas has Cincinnati as a 5-point favorite on the road. So basically an 8-point. That's a pretty big margin spread that they're given. But I think Cincinnati is going to score on Dallas. The question is, can this defense keep them from scoring a lot?
Yeah.
The offense the Cincinnati Bengals defense is the worst in the league, or easily one of the worst. They're worse than ours. I mean, they're like 26 points per game given up. They've given 40 points, 35 points. They've given up a lot of points. I just don't know if Dallas can score enough points. I think this could be one of those games where you might get a shootout, you might get a higher scoring game, and could be one of those funky kind of games. I don't have a ton of confidence in it, but what I would do, because I'm a betting man and I always bet on value, and there's value in betting on the Cowboys to win and parlaying it with another underdog, which maybe I'm thinking, I'm going back in time. The 49ers, I know they're a little crippled, but they're a decent underdog against who the hell are they playing? I forgot, I had it down. Whoever they're playing at home, they're a pretty decent underdog. So I take Dallas to win, San Francisco to win, and the payout is like 4-1 of what you bet. So to me, return on the value is there. So it's amazing that the 49ers have the same record as Dallas, but you don't hear as much disappointment. You don't hear as much from the national media about the 49ers as you did the Cowboys.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, I think it's probably, partial just because Dallas is still, regardless of what anybody says, even though San Francisco was just in the Super Bowl last year, Dallas is just the bigger brand. They're the bigger, you say Dallas Cowboys to lead a show and it brings all the eyeballs to the TV. You say San Francisco 49ers, people are like, it just, they don't really move the needle like the Cowboys. And that's not being a Cowboys homer. That's just the truth. I mean, you look at the ratings. When people watch games, it's the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, the Cowboys are a 5-win damn team, and ESPN still finds a way to talk about them every goddamn day. FS1 talks about them every damn day. It's just how it is. And just real quick, we got another super chat from Chat. He's talking about CeeDee Lamb. Actually, he's not talking about the Cowboys trying to win and not tank. He's talking about CeeDee Lamb getting hurt. And just to answer that real quick, I think CeeDee Lamb's fine. I don't think they'd put him out there if he was in a spot where he should not be playing. But yeah, no. In terms of what you're saying, I just think it's the Cowboys are the bigger draw. That's why you hear more about them. But
just to finish up on the Niners, because I thank you, Cowboys Nation, for reminding me. This is what intrigued me about it. They're playing the Bears. Yeah. The Bears, who just fired their coach, are a 4-point favorite on the road against San Francisco. That, to me, I don't know. It just feels weird. I know CMC's out. I know there are other running backs out. I'm not a believer in the Bears. You just fired your coach. You're in disarray, and you're going in as a favorite. I'm just saying, I bet on value. That's pretty good value. That's pretty good value for the 49ers in that game. And I think Dallas, there may be some value. It's a long shot, right? But
there's value in either one of those just because of the fact that one, it's like you said, it's the Bears. I wouldn't trust the Bears either. And then two, it's a pretty big point spread with Dallas playing at home. Yeah. And they have been playing better regardless of the opponent. Even if it was the Commanders and the Giants, I still have seen some good things from Dallas playing with some heart. So yeah, I mean, I'd take that bet, man.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the game. And you said something I wanted to get, that I wanted to talk about, get your opinion. You are, you give tough love sometimes on these Cowboys that's needed. But what is it, a lot of people say tank, get ready, but what you're seeing from this team, what you're seeing from a Hoffman, what you're seeing from Bass, what you're seeing, from Overshone, Parson, a lot of guys that, some could just pack it in. Parson could have said, well, I'm just going to sit, I'm going to rest. Deron Bland clearly could have said, hey, I'm just going to take the season off. I'm, no sense in getting hurt. But you're seeing guys come back and you're seeing a lot of fight. Now, we'll see how it plays out in the end. But this team is even, even in the games they lost, as some of these guys are starting to come back, you're seeing some fight. Is that something that makes you feel better? And say, you know what, at least I got some hope, something going into next season that these guys aren't a bunch of quitters? Or would you have rather say, hey, sit everyone? Would it make you feel better to see Parsons sit and da-da-da? I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's a hard thing for fans. They get infatuated with the draft. I'm just not a huge draft ranking guy. I think you get the guy you get and you develop them and hopefully you hit a home run with the guy you got. I'm much rather, I need to feel good on Sunday that my team – win or lose, gives a shit. I use the Panthers as an example. I don't know if you watched that game against the Buccaneers. That team fought, and they fought hard, and it broke my heart to see that running back fumble the ball, when they had the opportunity to just kind of like sit on it and hit the field goal and win that game. That's a team that doesn't quit. And if I'm a Panthers fan, it makes me feel like maybe we got something going. Maybe this kid, Bryce has a future. Maybe this team is young and could get something going. And you see the excitement. These guys are professionals, but they're competitors. And who the hell wants to roll over and just get your ass whooped? So I would say for you, seeing some of this team, and does it make you feel better that, hey, maybe we got more depth on the offensive line? Maybe we got some guys that actually give a shit. I mean, what are you seeing from this team and moving forward?
Yeah, it does, but it also it makes me feel better. It makes me feel better going into next year in terms of this team, but it also makes me sit there and scratch my head and look back and say, where was that fight early in the season? Where was that fight when the Saints went in and stole our lunch money and walked out of our house with all of our possessions? And it's to the point where it's like, okay, why wasn't the hunger there with some of these guys that we take to be leaders on the team, because now you're starting to see some of this and some of it come together and, see some of these younger guys get some opportunities and come through and they start shining. And it's like, okay, well, why did it take us getting to where we are now in order to start seeing this? You know what I mean? It's almost like, did your pride really have to get hurt like that for you to come out and play like you should be playing already? Because I look at this Cowboys team and I know a lot of people have said, look at the injuries. We've been decimated by injuries, and so, the 49ers, and that's kind of why both having down years. And I agree, injuries definitely play into it. But I also look at the beginning of the season and I think about that game. I can never get that Saints game out of my head. I think about that game all the time. When I think about this team, when I think about their chances, when I think about their defensive capabilities, and when I think about that Saints game. And I think about that Saints game. They came in here and they just beat the living shit out of us. And then the very next week, needed to win. You're 1-1. The Ravens come in. They out physical you and they beat you. And the Ravens really aren't that great of a team this year. Now, granted, they're a good team. They're not one of the elite teams. That's not a team I'm looking at. I don't think they have a Super Bowl chance. I think they'll probably get beat in the first round of the playoffs. So, but then you see glimpses of this team, like how the hell we beat the Pittsburgh Steelers still is a mystery to me, because that's to me, that's a team that's out there playing hard every single week. That's a team that, and maybe it's because we got Justin Fields and not Russell Wilson, but you just look at this team and it's giving me headaches. And I scratch my head more often than not with this team because I don't really know what the hell this team is. Are they a team that has grit and heart and can fight and grind out some games? Or is it the team we saw earlier in the season where they buy into the hype and they're only playing like this now because their pride and their egos hurt? But when everybody's coddling them and patting them on the back and telling them how good they are, is this a team that's going to show up like what we saw against the Saints, show up what we saw against the Ravens, the Lions? You know what I mean? So I think this team is somewhere in between. And honestly, what I think it boils down to, Mike, really is just the fact that we just didn't do what we should have as an organization to fix our glaring weaknesses. I think that's all that it boils down to, man. I think we've got guys on this team that are good enough to make us a competitive team. I just don't think we made the moves, whether it be in free agency, whether it be maybe we addressed, a position, didn't address a position in the draft, like the running back position, stuff like that just ultimately led us to where we are today. And I just don't think there's any way to fix that until next year, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's still going to come down to their lack of offseason moves that they could have made that, like you and I said, basic things, running the football, stopping the run. Rico has done better, but I mean, Rico's not Derrick Henry. Rico's not Saquon Barkley. Rico's not, he's not one of those free agents that were out there. And I didn't think they'd get Barkley, but I think they could have got a Derrick Henry. And he was right at their fingertips. You could have got, a simple guy that, he's older, but a Calais Campbell. He's still playing solid football. He's a big guy. He's a winner. He's been on championship team. He knows what it takes. Those kind of guys that they could have got in free agency, they never really got. And that would have, when you had, a guy go down, you would have had a guy to fill in, right? You could have give you more depth. They didn't have the depth when they lost, some of their defensive guys. I mean, who was their other cornerback, right? They didn't really, they were relying on a rookie, which, I mean, that's not the, a fair thing to do, but it is what it is. And I think that's where they've made a mistake. Like Guyton, I think Guyton has made improvements, right? I think we all said he's going to have his lumps, but wouldn't it have been nice to have a guy that you could have just kind of put in there when he was in trouble, maybe having a bad game, that you could have go ahead and switch him out and you could have made a move. You could have been very strategic in kind of what they do. They didn't do it, paying the price for it early, and probably paying the price for it now, because this is the part that gets frustrating as a Cowboys fan or any fan. You could say the 49ers too this year. The NFC, I mean, it's not wide open. It's really Detroit, Philadelphia, and everybody else. Green Bay's shown flashes, so they're kind of there. But what I would say is all beatable, except for maybe Detroit, all teams that have flaws, and Detroit probably has some flaws if we look into it. So to me, it's another wasted opportunity to really try and take advantage of an NFC conference that isn't, so top heavy. And that's the part that's frustrating as a Cowboys fan, is it's another wasted year. And I'm sure the 49ers probably feel the same way. And if you're a Falcon fan, you put all that money and you put all that investment in your team, and they might win that division by default, but I'd be lucky to be 500.
Yeah. And I mean, it sucks when you see the team in your division that you hate the most, the Eagles, go out and they make one of these big moves. And I wouldn't even really say it was a huge move. It was just a move that they thought they needed an upgraded running back. Yeah. And look at what it's done for their team. I mean, Saquon, I don't care what anybody says. Saquon has turned that team into a contender.
He's my MVP right now. I mean, to me, he's my MVP of the league. I know people will argue Josh Allen. I can't argue that if you say him.
Listen, if Saquon won the MVP, I'm not going to sit there and say that anybody got robbed. I wouldn't be out there sitting there saying Saquon didn't deserve it. I mean, he has carried the Eagles to the record they are. I mean, you look at Jalen Hurts. I mean, and I'm not taking anything away from him, because Kellen Moore is being smart with the play calling, and I mean, he's basically kind of taken the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hands. I mean, Jalen Hurts has 4 games this year. I looked at it. 4 games this year where he's passed under 180 yards, and all 4 of those were wins. I mean, he had like 13 completions in the game the other day that they played. I mean, 13 completions, and they won the game, versus the Ravens kind of going away. I mean, it looked closer at the end than it was, but they had that garbage time touchdown. And you're sitting there, you're looking at it, And I mean, it's just pretty simple. They got a good offensive line, and they are pounding the rock with Barkley. And the one thing that I would, if I was a Philadelphia fan, the one thing I would start to worry about is Saquon does have a history with some health issues. He is getting a whole lot of carries. I do worry about, I don't worry about it. Actually, I think it's a good thing. Run his ass in the ground for all I give a shit. But I do, if I was a Philly fan, would be a little bit worried about
distribution of the
in terms of his load carries. You know what I mean? Going into the playoffs, is he still going to be able to pound the rock like that? So
No, I agree, but that's a recipe of winning football. I mean, your quarterback. How many? Go look at what a quarterback's record is throwing the ball 50 or more times. I guarantee it's probably more often than not a losing record on most quarterbacks throwing the ball a ton of times. You want slower, lower attempts and high ability of running the football. That's a recipe for success, and that's what Philly has been able to do. And really, even the Lions with their two-headed monster running back. And then obviously, Jared Goff is just efficient. He's not flashy. He doesn't get all the glam, but he leads that team and he wins. It's almost like, a lot of people, and I'm not comparing him to Aikman, so calm down. But when you saw Aikman, right? Aikman wasn't real flashy. He wasn't, but he was efficient. And that ball was thrown where it needed to be thrown. And you can be blindfolded. You can blindfold Irvin and Aikman and send them on routes. And Aikman's going to complete it 8 out of 10 times. I mean, that's the way Jared Goff seems to me. He's just very efficient with the football. And they play with attitude. They take the personality of their football coach. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens because, more often than not, the best team doesn't end up going to the Super Bowl. So it'll be interesting to see how this, stacks up. But all intents and purposes, you got all these teams fighting for, I think, one spot because Green Bay and Minnesota seem to be far ahead with the wins and the way their schedule is that I don't know if you're going to get another team. You're not going to get 2 teams from our division or 2 teams from the West.
Well,
definitely not 2 teams from the South to even get a playoff spot. So it's all these guys fighting for one. And I've got a hefty bet with the Washington Commanders fans. So hopefully it's not Washington. I thought it would be San Francisco was going to take that spot. And then they lost both the running backs. I'm like, shit, I might be in trouble now.
Well, I would say right now, and when, as far as talking about the elite teams in the NFC, and you talk about the team with the best record is not always the one that will make the Super Bowl. If I'm looking at it in terms of what I'm seeing, the dark horse team for me in this NFC playoffs, the dark horse for me, I think Green Bay.
Yeah.
And I really like what they got going on. They can run the ball well with Jacobs. Jordan Love, I think, is a good quarterback. They've got some really good wide receivers. I think their defense is pretty solid. Green Bay, that's my dark horse team. If I didn't, if it's not going to be one of the top teams, but honestly, really, for me, it's really hard for me to go against Detroit at this point, making it to the Super Bowl. I see what they got. I just feel like that's such a complete team, defensively, offensively, just well coached, just all around, man. I got more faith in Detroit than I do anybody. And yeah, Carl, I do know that they beat Green Bay. They beat them on a sloppy field in the week 1. That doesn't mean anything going into the playoffs. So don't pound your chest. Dallas beat Green Bay in 2016. We beat the brakes off Green Bay in Green Bay. Green Bay came to Dallas and beat Dallas. So I don't give a shit what happened week 1. Don't hang your hat on that. I'm still putting my money on Detroit though to come out of the NFC. But
I need you reading this stuff because I can't see. I know I'm yelling that I'm not posting anything. My vision is getting worse and worse for some reason, and I'm having a hard time reading any of these comments. So if someone's bad-mouthing me, Kelly, please take care of them.
I got you, but I got Mark. Mark's got back-to-back, so we got back-to-back chats here. He's putting both of our kids through college. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. We got the super chat. First one says, only QBs that had 50-plus passes and won a lot was Marino and Fouts. Old school.
No Super Bowls for him, though.
Says the 1 year Romo had a stud running back in Murray. He led the league in quarterback rating. That's true as well. Good running back to do that. And then next super chat says it's Detroit kicking ass without that stud D lineman. So Yeah,
And they
and
made a trade. They traded and got what's his name? I can't remember, but they did.
And you know what? Hold on. This right here, Carl, this is the one thing I will definitely agree with you on. You definitely are not Dallas. You're 4 Super Bowls short, and you are the bottom of the barrel when it comes to the NFC East. You were the only team in the NFC East without multiple Super Bowls. You are dragging us down, maing us look like
making us look bad. They're making us look bad.
You're making us look bad. So you're right. You definitely are not Dallas. We definitely don't think that you are Dallas. Never have argued that point there, Carl. So I will say that. But no, I mean, that's who I got Detroit coming out of the NFC, and I got in the AFC. I can't bet against Mahomes until I see Mahomes get taken down. I think it's the Chiefs, and I think it's the Lions. And until somebody proves me wrong, I just don't see. I know Josh Allen just beat Mahomes; they just won against them, but
he's done that a few times.
Yeah, he's done that a few times, but he ain't done it when it counts, and that's what matters to me. I gotta see that, and I don't buy it. I think Kansas City still got a really good defense. They're getting Pacheco back at the right time, and he got his first game back. He's getting his legs under him. By the time the playoffs come, he'll be rolling. So we'll see. Now that would be a good one.
I would say, in a weird way, and I don't know why, but I'm pulling for Kansas City. And a lot of people say, well, why would you do that? You got Detroit. You're an NFC guy. I just like Mahomes. I don't know why. I like him. I just think he's a good dude. And I love watching him play. And I've never seen, right? No team has ever won 3 in a row. And I think it'd be so cool to see him get 3 in a row, because I have some friends who are big Patriots fans, Tom Brady fans. So that's the one thing. Because I said, if Mahomes ever gets 3 in a row, no team has done it. I don't care where it's at. You had got to put him into that level of greatest of all time. I mean, without a doubt. So it would piss them off, because then I got something to really make fun of them about. So that's why selfishly I have it. But I like Andy Reid too. I think Andy Reid, if the Eagles weren't so stupid and got rid of Andy Reid, maybe they'd have more than 1 Super Bowl, right? Maybe they might have had a few more. So Andy Reid, I love Andy Reid. I've always liked him as a coach, and to see him get 3, I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be cool for football, it'd be cool for a fan. So I'm actually rooting for Kansas City Chiefs to get that 3-peat. I think it'd be nice.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously Mahomes. Texas Tech right here. That's my guy. So, I don't have a second NFL team, obviously, but if there's going to be a team that's going to win it and it's not the Cowboys, I definitely don't mind it being the Chiefs. I've been a Mahomes fan for a pretty long time, man, even well before he was winning Super Bowls in the NFL. So I really like him. He is a good dude. He's humble. And he's just, he goes out there and he gets it done, man. He makes winning plays. So gotta love it, man. And
you said you knew, as my brother and I told you, he's a Broncos fan. We used to get into it all the time, because he was so excited when the Chiefs when they moved on from Alex Smith. And the Chiefs were a good team, right? They were a playoff team with Alex Smith. That took balls, for the coach to draft the quarterback and then move on from the quarterback that's kind of leading you in the playoffs. And my brother, to this day, he goes, I don't know what I was thinking, but I just thought, great, they're going to put this Mahomes guy in there and they're going to stink. But you said he was legit. I didn't watch him play in college, but he was pretty legit from the moment you watched him. It was no doubt that he was going to be a superstar.
Yeah. I mean, him and Baker Mayfield were on the same team their freshman year. And Baker Mayfield was the starting quarterback that year. Cliff Kingsbury was actually the coach at the time. And towards the end of the season, last 2 to 3 games, Baker Mayfield went down. Mahomes won both of the last 2 games, played in the bowl game against Michigan State. We won the bowl game. It was our first bowl win that we had in a while, because we had went through the Mike Leach era, and Leach, after he left, Tech just kind of went down the dumpster, and then, got back into bowl eligibility. He won. So then the next, going into the offseason, they asked Kingsbury kind of after that. They were like, well, is Baker Mayfield going to get his job back? And he said, well, it's going to be an open competition in the spring. Baker Mayfield put in for a transfer, went to go play for Oklahoma, and kind of the rest is history, which, obviously Mayfield went on to have the more successful collegiate career just because Texas Tech never had a defense. But I mean, just watching Mahomes, whether it was in the spring game, watching him in, playing games where we were having to score 40, 50 points and our defense was giving up 50 points. I mean, I just always knew that with that arm that he had, it was just special because I'd never seen anybody throw the ball as far as Mahomes can throw that ball and kind of just do it and make it look effortless.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, and you seen it, you seen it in the Super Bowl. Even a Super Bowl that he lost to Tom Brady, he had that one play where he's literally like basically sideways and throws that dart into the end zone, and you're just going, how the hell did he throw that? I mean, he's damn near vertical when he throws it, and it's just, he does things that I've not seen any other quarterback ever in the NFL do, and it just continues to amaze me. And yeah, the Chiefs got really lucky. I wish that the Cowboys could have gotten Mahomes, but
I mean, I learned something. I did not know Baker Mayfield was on Texas Tech. I did not know that.
Yeah,
and that tells you that Baker Mayfield knew how good he was, and he transferred. And I mean, Baker Mayfield, like you said, he was one of the Heisman Trophy winner.
He was
football quarterback.
And there is a game where Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes played against each other, Oklahoma and Texas Tech, and I believe it still is the record for the most amount of yards combined by two quarterbacks. I think Mahomes went for, in that game, I believe Mahomes went for like 600 yards, and I think Baker Mayfield went for like 575. So like between the two of them, it was like 1,200 yards. I don't remember how many touchdowns. It was the most insane game I've ever watched. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's bad. Yeah, that's pretty cool. There was a question, and I can't see it, so I couldn't answer it or put it up. But I saw someone. It says, "Looks like, what are your thoughts on something?"
Let me scroll up a little bit. We got.
I think it was from. Is it Donnell? Texas Wolf, maybe. God, I got to get my eyes fixed.
Okay, here we go. What are your thoughts on maybe the Cowboys bringing in the assistant general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs, the assistant general manager for the Eagles, and Detroit?
They're never going to do that, so there's really no thought. I'd love the Cowboys to go get a general manager and have a layer between Jerry Jones, the owner, and the players, but that's never going to happen. Yeah.
We got another super chat from Mark, and he says Mahomes has no stud running back, and he lost Hill. His stats have dipped a bit, but he still makes plays, and he can elevate others. Imagine if he had a stud wide receiver and running back again. Now, I will say, I don't know necessarily as a stud, but I do think that DeAndre Hopkins definitely gave him away. I mean, he instantly elevated that offense. I mean, Mahomes and him had chemistry from the first week that he went there. He scored a touchdown. So I do think that DeAndre Hopkins on the Chiefs offense does make them more dangerous. And, getting Pacheco back, Pacheco's a pretty good running back. He's one of the more underrated running backs in the league. So, he had his first game back this week, and I would say by the time playoffs come back, he should be back in the form, and you'll see a pretty dangerous Chiefs team again. Great defense, and you can never count out Mahomes.
No. It's good. I love watching them play, and it's never pretty. Like this year, for some reason, for him, it hasn't been like pretty. It's been kind of like these games where it just doesn't look. He's not putting up gaudy stats. They're not killing teams. It's been battles. So it's going to be interesting to see when the playoffs start. He typically elevates. He takes his game to another level. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can hit that switch, because he hasn't been playing his best so far this year, right? And especially the past few games. So.
Got a question again from Donnell, Texas Wolf Graves. He says, "Hey fellas, you think it's possible that the Cowboys could get Stephon Diggs from the Houston Texans?"
I don't want him.
I'll let you do that one. Yeah, I think we kind of covered that just a little bit last week. We kind of talked about that a little bit, but I mean, he's a 30-plus-year-old receiver that is coming off a major knee injury. I don't think he's really who you want. You look at Michael Gallup trying to come back from that knee injury, not saying that Stephon Diggs and Gallup are on that same deal there, but, basically the the Bills were willing to let Diggs out the door. And the Texans went ahead and voided the last year of his contract. And I mean, it's not like, granted they got Tank Dell and Nico Collins, but I don't think Diggs has done himself very many favors in the last two places he's been at. I feel like he's kind of a guy that complains a little bit.
I'd rather get a young guy in here, man. Get a young guy.
I think you're better off drafting a guy. I think you're better off taking a guy in the first round, second round, to pair alongside CD. So I don't think we're going to go after Diggs.
I would bring back Irvin for a game. I could see that one. I could see the playmaker. Bring Irvin back. Yeah, I would bring him back for a game. So
I'll do that.
So I was going to say this. Everyone is watching. So I have 2 tickets for the Bengals, and if I don't sell them by Sunday, come Monday, it's going to be short notice. Monday, I'm going to post them. And I'm going to post them, and we're going to do a Cowboys Cave giveaway. And all you'll have to do is you see that post, if I do it, it matters if I sell them, of course. If I don't sell them, all it's going to be is you're going to just need to comment and take a snapshot that you're subscribed to the Cowboys Cave channel, YouTube channel, and I'm going to draw a winner live. I'm going to draw it out of the hat, and I'm going to cut it off by noon to give everyone plenty of time. Obviously it's going to be, you're going to have to be in the Dallas area to be able to go, but we're going to do that. But it has been tough for these Cowboy tickets, Kelly. I hold my tickets because I think I'm going to go to a game, and I kind of wait, and I'm like, man, a Monday night game, I could probably fly out and make it quick, and it'll be a big game. And this year it burned me. It helped last year. This year it burned me. The Giants tickets, I gave a great deal to Mike, one of our great friends who's been at the Cowboys Cave tailgate parties, been on the, part of the show sometime, and active listener and stuff like that. And they had a great time. I was even giving him one of my hookups that I had. He went down on the Bank of America club, so your field level suites and stuff like that. So he had a great time. I'm not going to do that for this one, but you're going to have 2 tickets, 2 club seats. So if I can't get rid of my Cowboy tickets because I can't go, we're going to do a giveaway. So you guys tune in for that. Keep your eye out.
That's a hell of a giveaway right there. You're not getting that at any other show right there where you get 2 club seat tickets. Give a shout out to Danelle here. He said he wanted to say, love you guys' content, especially Mike's college take on Miami University. I only wish that my favorite university, South Carolina, was good as they were. And I don't think South Carolina's done too bad.
South Carolina, I think, got screwed. I think they were the one team that probably had the best argument that they should have been in the playoffs. So
yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I'll tell you what, that's a sweet deal right there, Cowboys Cave. You
now
guys,
we all hope that we all hope I sell them. You don't want me to be out all this money, right? You want me to at least sell them. So,
I don't know. I think Cowboys Cave might want you to end up eating them tickets.
But we'll see. Those are my last tickets because I'm going to the Carolina game. Cuts is going, Doug and the crew. So we're doing the Carolina game. And then I'm going to be going to the Bucs game. I'll be my last game at AT&T for the season. Going to do that. It's going to be a nice long weekend. My wife and I are going. So you got to, she makes me stay at the better hotels. So I got to stay at the better hotels. And we've got some friends that are going to meet us out there as well. So it's going to be a great weekend. I know Cuts and his family, they're coming down for that game. So it's going to be a wonderful time. One last hurrah. Ready to get this season over and focus into next year. Obviously, I think brighter days will be ahead for the Cowboys. But finishing this thing off, Kelly, unless there was anything else that we didn't touch on, is just predictions. Predictions of the game. You guys give us your predictions. This is kind of a funky game with the Cowboys and Bengals. It had a lot of drama. I thought they might have flexed this game out because both teams have been but they didn't, obviously because of ratings, I'm sure. But what are you thinking about with the Cowboys and Bengals? How do you see this, playing itself out?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have the optimism. I hate this is the most times I've ever picked against the Cowboys in a long time. But I just I can't talk myself into very many wins when it comes to this Cowboys team. And as crappy as the Bengals have been defensively, I think they're that good offensively. I think their, weaknesses on defense are against the rush. They're not good against the rush, but we are also the 31st rush ranked offense. So we can't run the ball very well, even though we have lately.
But lately,
They did.
Ever
Rico's
since they
got
committed to Rico as being the lead back, they seem
being the lead back, so maybe they're able to do this. But you've got that Bengals offense is the number 1 passing offense in the league. We got the number 12 pass defense. There's a lot of similarities there that I kind of put out a tweet about their weaknesses kind of match our strengths and vice versa. They have the 27th rush offense. We got the 29th ranked rush defense, so they don't rush the ball a lot. I just think that they've got a lot of playmakers on that side of the ball. I think they score a lot of points. I don't think our offenses would be able to keep up. So at the end of the day, I'm going to say it's going to be the Bengals 30, Cowboys 20.
Okay, so 30-20. So you got a 10-point victory. So you got them covering the line. It's not good for me. I don't like that. I don't like what I just heard. But no, I think it's going to be a tough game for the Cowboys. It's all going to come down to how this defense can contain this offense. And it's like you said, it's heavy pass. They don't really have a strong running game, right? They lost Mixon. They don't really have a strong running game. But they do got Chase, who I would say Diggs shut down. Now, the Cowboys have had their way with the Bengals, in the Joe Burrow era. They beat Cooper Rush beat them. I was at that game when everyone left us for dead when Dak got hurt, and Cooper Rush went in and led them to it was an ugly, close game. It wasn't a pretty game, but the defense stepped up. I think you're not going to probably get Tank back, but Parsons has been playing on a mission. And if you get that pass rush going, and even Davis on the other side has been playing well, if you get the pass rush going, that could be a problem for Joe Burrow. Their offensive line isn't very good. So if you don't give them time, I don't care who you got on the outside. If they don't have time to throw it, it ain't going to matter. So it's really going to come down to that defensive line. You're going to get Diggs back. You're going to get Bland back. I think it's going to be one of those 34-31 games. I think Dallas praying. I'm being selfish. I'm being a homer, of course. I think Dallas pulls it out in a close game. They bring home the victory. And I think they run the ball a lot with, like you said, I like this one right here with Rico. I think they slow the game down a little bit. And I would love to see the Cowboys, take this victory home. I know a lot of people don't think it'll happen. Vegas doesn't, but I think it'll happen. So what do you say?
Well, hey, look, I say, I tell people all the time, I'm never going to be mad about a win. I'm not one of those people that gets pissed off when we win because I'm like, oh, shit, draft position and this and that. No, I'm still going to be happy. I'm still going to celebrate the victory if we win. I love being proven wrong by the Cowboys. I want them to prove me wrong. A lot of it, in my mind, is kind of like that reverse psychology type deal.
Now, did you pick the Cowboys to lose to the Giants? Hopefully you did.
I did not. No, I didn't. I picked them to win because there's one thing I'll never bet against. That's Cowboys Giants. I'm not going to bet against Cowboys when we play the Giants. It's just like that has been such an easy win for the Cowboys over the past several years. I mean,
God, it's been a decade or so, right?
I know. I don't think we've had a game that's been decided by less than a touchdown. We have beaten the living dog shit out of the Giants pretty much by a touchdown or more every. I mean, even when we're terrible. I mean, this is probably their best chance of beating us was this year, and they couldn't even get it done. This time we still beat them by a touchdown. So no, I did not. I did not pick Dallas to.
Because then I would say it's probably like 3 in a row, right? Because I know you had us losing to Washington, and it would have been
I did
the Giants, and we could prove you, and you got that reverse psychology going. So
I do, man. I try to use that reverse psychology because honestly, even when I'm picking them to lose, I'm always hoping them to win. I'm never one of those guys that wants them to lose just so I can be right. That's not in my blood. I watched the game on Sunday, and I'm gonna, it's nice to be able to have something to cheer for and to get pumped for, and because we haven't had many of those moments this year. So it's nice to be able to have those moments. So I'd love to see that. And I'd love Dallas to be able to get, their second win at AT&T Stadium this year, and be able to win a game on prime time. It'd be nice.
It would be. It'd feel good. So we're going to leave it with this, but I just want, if you got 2 minutes of your time, because I wanted to ask about your son. So he you posted a video, you posted it, he got into wrestling. I would say this: wrestling to me is probably the most important thing I ever did, the most important decision I ever made. I was a kid that had no school direction, and I was in dropout prevention when I was in 9th grade. I signed up for it because they told me you had a field trip every month. So I thought that was a great deal. But I never was doing good in school. And a friend of mine was wrestling. So I ended up going out for wrestling a year later. So I didn't go to wrestle until 10th grade. I think you said your son he's a junior. Is he a junior?
Yeah, junior.
Okay. And the first year wrestling, I was ineligible. I didn't make the grades. So I went to practice every day and I couldn't compete. And then I wrestled my junior year, and I made sure I got my grades right and everything was looking good. I was 5-0. I felt really good about myself. And there was this 2-time state champion, and one of my teammates didn't make weight, and the coach said, "Hey, Mike, or he used to call me, they all call me Tag. Hey, Tag, you want to wrestle, varsity against Pritz tonight?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why not, man? I'll do it." Now, I knew what was going to happen, but the bad part is people in the stands don't know who this guy is, right? And my family really didn't know who he was. And it was probably the worst beating of 1 minute and 16 seconds that I ever had in my life. He just absolutely annihilated me, embarrassed me, because he wanted to wrestle the other kid because he was a better wrestler and he was talking trash and this and that. So long story short, I wrestled a ton of state champions. I had a great time. I never won like a state championship. I never won a major tournament, but I played. My goal was always to get to regionals. So I placed in every tournament that I was in, whether it be third, whether it be fourth, whether it be whatever, but I never won one. But it was where I am at today is because of wrestling. And I try and preach to anybody who listens, get your kid in wrestling. It does everything for your mind. Like you said, it was an individual sport and you have no one to blame. You can't blame the guy next to you if you get your ass whooped, and it will happen. I mean, your son's going to get his ass whooped, right? I mean, it just happens. But then it drives you to be better. And he's going to whoop some ass too. He's going to beat some people's ass. So I'm just saying, I love it. Hopefully you're into it. And hopefully, I don't know if you're into wrestling for this or whatever, but I can't wait to watch his journey and see where it takes him. Tell him
I'm a competitive person. I've always been competitive in nature. Doesn't matter what I'm doing. I like to compete. It's a casual game of horseshoes or a game of basketball, whatever. I'm a competitor, and so I love to see that for my kids, because I do think that it just sets you up for later in life to be a competitor in life. You learn a lot of life lessons because you're going to fail, you're going to succeed, and it's gonna it really defines your character as a person. As I've told them. So as a junior, I mean, in Nebraska, these kids come out the womb wrestling. I mean, they're wrestling the doctor with the umbilical cord on them. So the fact that he's doing that, the fact that the high school that he is at right now has won 6 consecutive state titles. He knew he wasn't going to make varsity. Varsity was was not even an option. Didn't even actually. So they've got varsity, JV, and they've got reserve. He's actually been placed on the reserve team because, again, not really the experience to get there. But they've told him that if he works hard enough and improves, he will have a chance to to maybe wrestle his way on to JV before the end of the year, and a very, very long shot to. They do wrestle offs where he could get possibly on the varsity, but that's probably not going to happen. His goal right now is kind of to at least get on the JV team, the JV squad. But right now he's wrestling on reserve, so he'll have his first actual reel. What he had the other day was a wrestle off to kind of determine some positioning, and he had won that. But this Monday night, they've got 3 schools coming in to deal. So he'll wrestle 2. He'll get 2 matches that he gets to wrestle on Monday. They'll actually count it against his record and everything. So he's pretty pumped and excited, but been working hard. He told me at the end of that match, he said, "Jesus," he says, "I got to work on my cardio, man." He's like, he said by that 3rd round, he said, I was gassed. So he definitely
3rd period, get all the terminology right. Make sure we're
third period. Yeah, 3rd period. Well, I wrestled 1 year, my freshman year, and then I would have loved to keep doing it, but I was kind of a knucklehead and couldn't stay out of trouble. So, but I do like the sport, and I know a lot of my friends' kids that do it, and I'm just I think I'm getting a kick out of watching him and seeing his progress and him telling me stories of what he did in practice and how he got a little bit better today. And, and that's the thing I tell him all the time, like, just get better. Just be better today than you were yesterday. That's all you can do. So,
it'll be in your blood and it never goes away. But like I said, I I still go see my wrestling coach every time I go to Fort Lauderdale. I'll stop and talk. I mean, what it taught me, I tell anyone who listens, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for that sport. It teaches you so much. And I never understood, how could boxers and when you see fights, how do they fight and then they're handshake, and then they just got done battling, trying to hurt each other, and then at the end they're give a handshake, good match, this and that, and they're talking afterwards. But if you watch wrestling, it's the same thing like UFC and these others. You get, whether you get your ass whooped or whether you whoop someone's ass, you gain respect. And that's one of those lessons that you learn in life, is like, you could, you get the better of someone, but you guys compete for a job or whatever it is, but it's, hey, best man wins. Congratulations. I'll support you. And, whether it be in a work life or whether it be personal life, whether it be family life, you learn how to win with class and lose with class. And I think that's one of the other things that it teaches you. So I can't wait to watch the journey. I still have a little bit left in me. If we see him at a game, we can, have a little wrestle off and get there. I made the mistake of doing that at my brother's party. I was inebriated, and one of his my nephew's kids was wrestling, and we ended up wrestling. We started in the garage and ended up in the kitchen. I didn't let him pin me. We were in a stalemate. I was 20 years his senior, and he was about 30 pounds heavier than me. But it was fun. It never leaves the blood. So I didn't mean to take up time, but I love the sports. I just wanted to bring it up to you.
Yeah.
And just, hey, I'm involved. I can't wait to see the matches. And I can't wait to see you share them stories, because it's a lot of fun. So anyway.
Absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to it too, man. So I'll definitely be sharing it along the way, and I'll be posting some videos, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more on the cave when we this next week, see how his first go round goes. So
absolutely, I can't wait to see it, and all you guys get a little personal side of K9 and Tag. We're not all Cowboys. We got some other interests and other ways of life and what we do. So make sure, if you guys haven't hit that subscribe, you're hanging with us late, 250 of you in there hanging out. We appreciate it. Hit that subscribe, like, and share. And like I said, I have 2 tickets. If they don't sell, they're club level, 233, 30-yard line, great seats. If I don't sell them, I'm going to do a giveaway. It's going to be early. We're going to do a giveaway, cut it off at 12 o'clock. I'll do a live old school, pull the name out of the hat. And all you're going to have to do is just show Kelly and I that you are a subscriber to the channel. And Kelly, you post it too. We'll both post it. That way we'll get double the action.
Absolutely.
We'll gather them together. And the Cowboys Cave will get someone a hookup of a nice pair of tickets if we don't sell them. So for that, I got nothing else, Kelly. What else? You got anything else?
Nothing else here, man. Just go Cowboys, man. Go out there and get that win on Monday night.
Give us something to cheer about. So you guys have a great weekend. Stay tuned to the cave. Make sure you hit the alert, because we may be popping in any now and then. So take care. I'll see you.
Give me somebody that's hungry. Give me somebody that's hungry. I need somebody.